Anne Rule has been hard at work again with the release of her brand new book, The End of the Dream, in original paperback this past December, and with the publishing of her recent book, Bitter Harvest, in paperback this month. She has plenty to talk about. It's been nearly 2 years since we were last with her at her home, so we figured it was about time for another visit. Anne, in your new book, The End of the Dream, this is a group of guys that were friends for a long period of time, seemingly normal guys, but all of that changed. What happened?
Well, The End of the Dream is a story of about 7 young men, all who were brilliant and charming and handsome and had it all. 5 of them were friends growing up, and one of them was a cop, and one was an FBI agent, all about the same age. It's the story of a man named Scott Scurlock, who was a preacher's son from Reston, Virginia, and his friends, all through the years together. And Scott was the leader of the pack, and Scott needed excitement, and he needed lots of money, and he really didn't want an 8-hour-a-day job. So in looking for excitement and money, he started first manufacturing crystal meth. And when a murder ensued, he moved on to bank robbing, and he was the most prolific bank robber the Northwest ever saw. But in robbing banks as Hollywood, and they called him Hollywood because he wore wonderful makeup, nobody knew he wasn't a 55-year-old man when he went into the banks. He took 2 of his friends down with him and destroyed lives like a pebble making waves. So many lives were destroyed. But as I follow his life and his friends' lives and the ones who walked away, I also follow Mike McGann, the cop, and Sean Johnson, the FBI agent, in their desperate struggle to catch him. So there are all these lives, and in the end, they kind of weave together in really a terrible night the day before Thanksgiving 2 years ago in 1996.
Bitter Harvest was released on February 1st in paperback. What is that case all about?
Bitter Harvest takes place in Prairie Village, Kansas. It's the story of Dr. Deborah Green and her husband, Dr. Mike Farrar, and their marriage, which on the outside looked perfect. And they lived in a mansion. They had 3 wonderful children, 2 dogs. But in reality, everything was crumbling on the inside. And before it was over, the mansion burned. 2 of the family were dead. 1 person lay near death. And the killer, Dr. Deborah Green, seems like the most unlikely person to carry out the crimes that she did. But as I went back into her life and into the marriage, you can see the seeds of destruction already sprouting.
I was fascinated by this book. Dr. Green, to me, seemed like a very brilliant physician. What factors in someone's life would take them from being seemingly normal to committing these horrific acts that many of your subjects in your books do?
Well, she seemed normal. She wasn't. From the age of 3, probably, she had to excel. She had to be best at everything. She was the valedictorian. I got a letter from a friend of hers who said in high school she was perfect. She had to be perfect. But being perfect meant having the perfect marriage to a doctor in the perfect house. When that marriage began to pull apart, when there was another woman involved, Deborah could not stand to have that happen. And so she took steps. And only then did you see this raging maniac inside this woman who looked like the perfect Midwestern housewife / doctor.
Now, The End of the Dream was published in paperback in December, brand new book. Bitter Harvest came out before that in hardback and was released in paperback at the beginning of this month. What factors determine whether or not one of your books is going to be released initially in hardback or paperback?
Well, a hardcover probably would be my prime stories, the stories that need 700 pages in manuscript form to tell them, that are so convoluted and so high profile. The paperbacks, paperback originals, are called my crime files, and they have both a book-length story, but they also have 3 to 5 short cases from my past as a true detective writer that are really incredible cases. It gives me a chance to present those to a broader audience, and the readers like that. If they're riding home in the bus, they can read a short case. If they're curled up by the fire, they can read the long story.
Anne, I've known you now for 2 years. I know you to be a very busy lady. What do your readers have to look forward to?
Well, if I can just keep it going here, this year, in a month, I will finish a book called A Rage to Kill, which will have 12 to 14 short cases from the past. From the past, it also will include the bus crash off the Aurora Bridge, which I think is a fascinating study of psychopathology. Then after that, there will be a major book for Simon & Schuster, and as we sit here today, I don't know whether it will be a Colorado case or a Delaware case. I'm waiting to see how the trial dates will fit and who's going to get acquitted and who's going to get convicted. And after that is a book called Empty Promises, which has, again, a Seattle area location from Renton, Washington, a case of a wife who worked in a stock brokerage firm who went home one day telling her friends, I'm going home to ask for a divorce. If I don't come back tomorrow morning, look in my desk. My whole life is in my desk and in my computer. And she didn't come back.
Anne, thank you so much.
Thank you,
it's a
John.
pleasure to be here in your home again. All of Anne's books, her biography, as well as her latest newsletter can be found at her website, www.annerules.com.